1 week is not enough time for you to change Guatemala, but 1 week is enough time for Guatemala to change you. These are the words that were given to us on our first day in Guatemala, and I didn't realize how true they would ring until I experienced it myself. While preparing for our trip, we spent many hours researching and reading. We were starting a dialogue that would help us to not only learn about the current injustices and struggles within the country of Guatemala, but it was also to help us to stretch our own understandings and prepare us to step out of our comfort zones and into a new culture with fresh eyes to see and ears to listen and hearts ready to be woven. On January 6, 2023, we departed from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and flew to Guatemala City, Guatemala. All of the time spent learning before the trip was really helpful, but it was also nothing compared to immersing ourselves into their culture and breaking ground to new relationships with the Guatemalan people. We hit the ground running on that very first day in Guatemala by spending time in a worship service and also touring some of Guatemala City. Hearing the stories of all of the injustices and the historic first-hand accounts really was a game changer. Whether it was the crosses that stand firm in the Central Park or the faces of the disappeared people from the armed conflict. All of these accounts and stories were written in pieces that we read before the trip, but seeing them firsthand brings a new reality to all of it. In some ways, it felt so surreal to finally be there in our destination. After all of the research that I've done prior to the trip, I was able to put faces and places to the names and to the stories that I had learned beforehand. During our time in Guatemala, we traveled many times and to many places. We heard many stories and began many new relationships. Between the educational opportunities that SEDEPCA offers to the people of Guatemala, to the youth group that is learning to start a business and stands firm in their appreciation for their families. Each day, we were able to catch a glimpse of both our differences and our similarities to the people of Guatemala. When someone asks me what I did on this mission trip, I first begin with the fact of not what I did, but what the trip did for me. You see, the truth is, something changed inside me. My whole idea and vision of what mission would look like for me personally and in my ministry has changed and been transformed and woven into something new, into something that I believe God had planned for mission all along. I cannot make a large change that will change the world, but I can keep the human connection and I can tell the people's story. We're all human, and at some point we must accept our own limitations as human beings and put our faith in God's ability to do the work where we cannot. I don't think that it's changed my own call. However, I do feel more responsible for being a role model for my congregation in liberation theology and in loving our neighbors. I also feel more responsible for teaching them scripturally, their own responsibility as a fellow sibling in Jesus Christ.